Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another Flames of War battle report, and it is the big one, the big B, the big Blitzkrieg. It is Flames of War Early War. So this one is basically the forces fighting in France, 1940. So we've got the Germans, the French and the British, which will be slowly coming out in the next few months, starting with the British, then the French, then the Germans. So we've got a long while before it's all out, but when it's out, it's going to be very interesting. And then later in the year, another B, Barbarossa, for the Eastern Front, and then probably 2027, we'll have Battle Axe with the forces in the desert. So lots to look forward to, and also as well, we also have Italy coming out as well, and a lot of other things. So thank you, Battlefront. You're going to be putting me my wallet through its paces today, and hopefully I can eat over the leftover sprues, because that's all I'm going to have left. So it's going to be probably quite a long one, this one, but I'll go through in a bit of detail. Won't show you points. I'm 100% sure I will be able to, but you've only got about another month, and then you'll be able to have it for yourselves. And remember, the book does have the code to unlock all the forces as well, which is pretty good, to be fair. So remember, this stuff is up for pre-order now. Well, obviously depending on the time you are watching this video. If you're watching past the release, then it's still relevant. They still should be selling them. If you look at the link in the description or follow the QR code, it'll take you straight through to Firestorm Games, who have everything up for pre-order at the moment. I suggest you use these guys because they do have great value on all of it. There's about I think about a 10% discount on the retail price, and by clicking and using my link, you will help support me and the channel. So if you do click it, thank you very much. So not early war, but most definitely Flames of War. We have Welsh Nationals 2026. So again, QR code or link in the description will take you straight through to the ticket page, where we'll have a little bit more information. So it is in June. It's over 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday, 5 games at 100 points, and it will be using the new dynamic points. So hopefully you guys can make it. Okay, so the first of the new 3 early war nations, we have the Germans. Strange, this book is in order of the opposite of how the releases are going. So Germans will be the last to come out. So I suggest you get the 2-player starter set, just to give you a bit of a head start on your Germans. Otherwise, you can proxy your late war, mid war stuff anyway, but you'll need a lot more Panzer IIs. But yeah. Germans have a lot in their arsenal, which we'll have a little look at. And yeah, slightly different paint scheme, especially for their infantry, and everything else just being Panzer Grey. Okay, so these are the formations. We have 3 tank formations, 3 infantry formation, an assault gun formation, and a scout car formation. So we have plenty to choose from. Bear in mind, none of them are cheap, because unlike the other stuff in the book, these guys are all careful. Although the British infantry are careful, which we will see later, these guys are all careful. We will have some information on some command cards, but not all of them, because I do not have them. But it's interesting in this book that they do actually show them off slightly, which we will see. Okay, and then here is the German support options. Of course, you will see there are wildcards. I do not cover wildcards in the channel because I just don't like them. Although I see why people might find them fun, but I don't use them. But you can see here the Germans have got plenty of anti-tank support in form of the dreaded 88s. They also have Stukas. They're the only nation in this book that does have aircraft. And of course, you've got your 10.5 centimeter artillery, your scout option, and your self-propelled artillery as well. So good options here for the Germans. Okay, so the first formation is a light tank company. So this is basically your Panzer 1s and Panzer 2s. So you have your HQ, and then you have 2 compulsory Panzer 1 and 2 platoons, which, as you can guess, contains Panzer 1s and Panzer 2s in various different combinations, which we'll have a look at. Your third option then, you can have the same, or you can go for something slightly bigger in the form of a Panzer III. And then your final choice, and obviously you don't have to stick to the third one, you can go straight to this fourth one. You'll have the choice of having Panzer IVs as well, which are not the long barrel because they haven't done it at this point. But the Panzer IVs are quite good, and time will come, we will have a look at them. Okay, so here we have the HQ option for the light tank company. Please excuse my archaic method of concealing the points. But as you can see, you have three options. You can either have two Panzer IIs, a HQ Panzer I, or a Panzer I. The HQ Panzer I, because I don't want to try pronouncing it. I know German's fairly easy to go, but I don't want to mess up. But basically, it's a special type of command tank that they developed. So it's just a kind of like forward command element. So it does have a fixed hull machine gun, so only forward firing. And then you have the option of two Panzer IIs and then HQ, or one Panzer II and the HQ Panzer I. For the Panzer IIs, because you actually have a cannon with it. So we'll have a little look more at the stats of the tanks later on. I'm just showing you this option. But as you can see, they're all confident, veteran, and a 3+ last stand with these guys. And to mention, I didn't go over it, you can see the command card for the Panzer IIb, so it's basically down armors the Panzer II to front armor 1, and you get a discount. Panzer II to front armor 1, but you get a little bit of a discount back, so if you stack for points, it's always good to have a little command card. So here we have the combination of your Panzer I and Panzer II tank platoon. So you can have either 3 2s and 2 2s, 2 2s and 1 2, 1 2 and 4 1s, 1 2 and 2 1s. Not easy. As you can see, the Panzer I hasn't got the best armor and it only has machine guns. But obviously, you can beef up your platoon with these guys. Bear in mind they hit on 3s when you go in for an assault, so it's quite good. And generally with this amount of machine gun, you should be able to pin your stuff. And you can see here then with the Panzer II tank platoon, you've got a unit of 5-4-3. They do have a gun. Now, obviously, people playing mid-war and late-war, anti-tank 5 and front armor 3 isn't great. It's not bad now. It's not, it's not the best, but you can get by probably with anti-tank 5 and your front armor 3. You can be the judge of that when you see the other stuff. But for the most part, being careful and confident with a 3+ last stand, but it's the veteran thing that really does help. And of course, the Germans do have the Stormtrooper rule. I didn't go over the German special rules because they're the same in pretty much all the other books. But the French and the British we will, because there's some new stuff. Okay, so now we have the medium tank company. So it's basically mostly Panzer IIIs, but you do have to take a unit of Panzer IIs. But a good mix of stuff here, including the Panzer 38T as well. So the HQ options are quite varied. So you can go for Panzer IIIs in a unit of 2 or 1. You can have a Panzer II again with a HQ Panzer, 2 Panzer IVs, or a Panzer IV and a Panzer II, or a Panzer IV on its own. So quite a good mix of stuff there. Okay, so here we have the two German medium tanks. We have Panzer IIIs, which you can have in a unit 5-4-3, or the Panzer IV, which is a 4-3 or a 2. So Panzer III, as you can see, same armor as the Panzer II with front 3, but these guys do have side 3 as well. They also have a 3+ last stand, and they have the 3.7 centimeter guns. So for people who don't know, they only decided to up armor and up gun the Panzer IIIs just pre-Barbarossa, so no 5 centimeters on the tanks, unfortunately, and you'll have to put up with front armor 3, which again, when you get your heads around, isn't awful. Also on here, you see the Panzer IV, same front armor and stats apart from the side armor is worse. The gun is the short 7.5, so it does fire anti-tank 7, so in terms of German tanks, it is the best you will get in this book, and it has a 3+ firepower as well, which is pretty good. and can fire a template if you need to. But these guys did do rather well in the battle for France, so I reckon they'll do the same again in this, potentially. Now, potentially, my go-to, what I'll be going for, the Germans, is the Panzer 38T tank company. So these are Czech tanks. They are in mid-war and late war in the Axis Allies books, but you can have a pretty sizable formation and they're not too bad on points. So you obviously the HQ and the two compulsories are going to be Panzer 38Ts. But then you have the option of having your Panzer IVs, your 2s, or your 1s and 2s. So a good option to have, especially to get your Panzer IVs in. So with the Panzer 38T, HQ is a unit of 2, and then the platoon's a 5, 4, 3, or 3 with 2 Panzer 1s. So again, a 5 drop unit for not a lot of points. Is a little bit more than 4 Panzer 38Ts, but is less than 5. But it's the hulls going into assault because these guys are veteran, and they also have a remount as well on the 3+. Do lose a bit of armor in terms of the Panzer 2 and 3, but they do have a better gun than the Panzer 2, and the same basically as a Panzer 3 because it's a 3.7 centimeter. So again, overall a good tank. Does come in cheaper than the Panzer 3, as you would expect. So it's your choice really at the end of the day. But obviously the biggest thing that goes against them is the gun is overworked. And if you don't know what that means, it means if you move, you incur +1 penalty to hit your opponent while shooting at them. And now we have the Stugs. So basically, you can see here, you can have a whole formation of Stugs and have 6 Stugs. You'll still have points left, of course. They're not awful points. But yeah, they're the heaviest armored in terms of German armor. But units of 2, a bit tricky. There's stuff that can kill them, being front armor 4 and all that. But they are careful, fearless veteran. They do take a hit in the counter-attack and assault rating because they're only self-propelled guns. They have a 7.5 centimeter gun, which is pretty good, but they don't have machine guns. So is this going to be a sticking factor for some players unless you are a die-hard Stug life fan, which I kind of am. Okay, so now we have the Motorized Rifle Company. So we have the HQ, we have 3 platoons with the third option being an armoured rifle platoon. You have your machine gun section, your light mortar section, your infantry gun section, and your anti-tank gun section. I don't look at the HQ because it's pretty much the same as all the German HQs. It's 2 SMG teams, and they'll follow the stats as the infantry, which you will see now. Right, so with your motorized rifle platoon, you do have a fair few options. Obviously, you can have them as units of 7 or 5 with your 5 centimeter mortar, which is basically the 2-inch mortar that the British have. It's not a template, but it's an overhead firing, slow firing weapon. But you do have the option to have either having rifle MGs or MG teams. MG teams just gives you a better rate of fire. And you can also add a anti-tank rifle and a heavy machine gun as well. So quite a lot of options here, and these infantry are pretty good. They are careful, confident with 3+ last stand, but they are veteran. Normally I don't show the mortars, but oh no, I have skipped past the mortars, sorry everyone. So normally I skip past the infantry gun platoon, but if you look there now, they're not awful. So you get 2 bases, so that means you are rerolling your hits with a template, but they are anti-tank 5 with a 3+ firepower, so with a lot of light tanks running around, these guys aren't too bad. And you're in formation anti-tank, you can only have a max of 3 guns or 2. And anti-tank 6, 4+ firepower. So basically, you're same as your Panzer 3s and Panzer 38Ts that we've been seeing. But the gun does have a 3+ save, which is decent. So next is a staple of German players, the Armoured Rifle Company. Now, these guys are quite expensive now, very expensive. We'll have a look at the platoon and I'll give you an insight to how expensive they are without actually saying the points value. So your HQ is armoured, your first dedicated platoon is armoured, and your second dedicated platoon, to cut down on some points, can be armoured or motorised, and then your third is the same. And again, the support options, formation support options, are the same. Apart from your anti-tank option, you can have a Panzerjäger 1 tank hunter platoon instead of your 3.7 centimeters, which is cool. So if you have the HQ, which has to have a half track, the armoured rifle platoon. So 7 MG teams with your 5 centimeter mortar and 4 half tracks. Half tracks are more or less the same as you've been seeing before with their interesting stats. Or you can have a unit of 5, 1 and 3, but of course you can give them an anti-tank rifle. Now, to point out, if you had the 7-man platoon with an anti-tank rifle and you were playing a 100-point game, that would fill up half of the points you would need for reserves. That's how much they are. But it would seem that mobility is a premium in early war, which I can understand why. And if these guys were any cheaper, they would be a massive problem for the other nations and probably other German guys as well. But do note the half tracks are slightly different. So if you wanted to be really on it on terms of modelling, which I won't be doing with the Panzer IVs because I'm going to buy a box of 5 plastic ones, take note. Okay, so quite a favourite thing, an armoured car company now, following suit from the dynamic points in mid-war and late war. Armoured cars are quite expensive in early war, but you can see why, because their armour is more or less the same as a lot of the tanks, and their guns are about the same as well, and they're a little bit more manoeuvrable as well, so I think it's only fair. But the Scout Car Company has a wide variety of Scout cars in it, so there are about 4 different types of Scout car, and as you can see, the compulsory is the HQ, and then 2 units, a unit of 221 light scouts and 221 and 222 light scouts, with the options of plenty others, which we'll have a look at now. Okay, so I did skip the HQ, which is just 1221, so that is the one with the machine guns. So your 2 options here now, a lot of these Scout cars do come in units of 2. The only one it doesn't is the 221, which is a unit of 3, but bear in mind these are only machine guns. The 222 does pack a bit of a punch because it is the same gun as the Panzer II, which is pretty good. Now they only have front armor 1 and side 0 and 0 respectively. They do have a 4+ cross, which isn't awful for a Scout car. Speed-wise, okay, comparing them to the other tanks around for the Germans, but you check them on the road and these guys are flying. They are careful, they have the Scout rule, and they have Spearhead, which is why you want them. They are reluctant though, so the 4+ remount is good, but if you don't get them in with units of 2, they're probably running, so it's a cheap kill unit really. They are veteran though, so you can duck them in and out of cover. 4+ assault, but you don't want to be assaulting with these guys, and if you do, they're not going to counterattack. Probably unless you Rex anyway, because they have a 6+ counterattack. Okay, so the other 2 Scout cars, so we have the 2316 Rad. So of course it's a little bit more points than the 221, 222 unit. You only get 2 of them. No armor. Well, there is armor, but it's 000. The gun is the same, the machine guns are the same. It has a worse cross and is slower. So it's probably something I would ditch. And then we have the 2318 Rad, so a little bit more points than 6 Rads, just 1 point more. And this guy has just got front armor 1 and side armor 1. And yeah, so basically your choice. I think personally, if I do anything, it'll probably be the 221, 222, because it is the cheapest spearhead unit really that you can have outside of probably spearhead and infantry, etc. But other than that, I want them for the spearhead for maneuver options, and that's it. Okay, and now we have the infantry company, which is slightly different to the motor infantry. As you can see, the original thing is 2 compulsory infantry, HQ's compulsory, of course. The third compulsory infantry, so no motorized, no armored infantry at all in this. You have machine guns, 8cm mortars, 3.7 tank hunters, and then you have 4 choices for your artillery. You have your 7.5s, which you've seen, 15cm infantry, 15cm self-propelled, and chemical mortars. So the infantry platoon, same stats as we've seen for the other German infantry, but they can be bigger, so they can have a unit of 9 and a 5cm mortar, a unit of 7, a unit of 5. You can give them an anti-tank rifle and a HMG, but they are only rifle MGs. And you can see here there's also a command card they shared as well, an early infantry, so it's the same 10, 1, 7, 1 options, but they're just rifle teams, so that means they are rate of fire 1-1 and slow firing. So yeah, again, it's just to get points, but it's basically it comes up to a point cheaper. Okay, so now we have the support in artillery. Now the 10cm chemical mortars are quite good. Basically, they are pretty much your 12cm mortars. With a 3+ firepower and smoke bombardment. They do cost a fair bit of points, coming in basically 2 points cheaper than the 10.5cm howitzers. So again, it's a point saving exercise. And then we go on to the 15cm artillery support. Either the 15cm infantry or self-propelled gun are only going to be units of 2, so you re-roll in your hits. But anti-tank wise, they're not awful. So anti-tank 7 with an auto firepower and firing a template, it's 2+. The biggest problem is the infantry gun has a 4+ save, and the self-propelled one, obviously, is mobile, can't be pinned, but it only has front and side of 1 and a top 0. But good options to have, and of course, the self-propelled gun comes in at 3 points more than the infantry version. Okay, so now we're on to the support options. Just before this, I didn't see any need to show it. You have your divisional 3.7cm tank hunters. The only difference is you can have a unit of 4, so it's 4, 3, and 2 rather than unit of 3. So if you want a bit more of a hefty ambush, there's your go-to. But if you want something a bit bigger, you got your 8.8cm bunker flak tank hunter platoon. Now you can only have a unit of 2 and 1. They are expensive, but you can see why. Not much in terms of armor, but you've got the range to deal with most, like sit back and deal with stuff. They don't have a moving rate of fire, but when they don't move, they have 2 shots at a whopping anti-tank 14, which is more than enough to deal with the heaviest armor you'll be up against, I think, especially in France, without them having a save in return. So it's pretty decent. Okay, so then something we did see is some supporting formations. We have the Panzerjäger 1, so you can have a unit 4, 3, or 2, so quite decent. Self-propelled gun basically, but it is a 4.7cm, so it's anti-tank 8, so pretty, hard hitting in early war, but it does have its 4+ firepower. These guys are confident with a 3+ last stand, and they are veteran, so you can be ducking in and out. Please note as well on the bunker flak, it has the gigantic keyword, which means like flak 88s, it can't ambush within 16 inches. It has to be more than 16 inches away. So bear that in mind, but you don't really want to be doing 2-drop ambushes unless you're playing Finns and you have to. The only dedicated main artillery in support is the 10.5cm artillery battery, unit of 4, unit of 2. They are expensive on points, but it is a smoke bombardment at the end of the day. They are veteran, but they have a 4+ save. But in terms of artillery, pretty good. And if anything does get close enough, if you've still got 4 left that are not pinned, you've got 4 shots at anti-tank 9 with a 2+ firepower, which will pretty stop most things. I said most things. There are some things they will struggle against, but most it will be okay. I know it's not anything fancy, but we have infantry observation posts again, which is always good. And you can pay a point more to have a mobile one, but I do like the infantry ones because they're nice and cheap. And people kind of forget about them and don't shoot at them very much. But yeah. Or, if you're some crazy person like Tom who likes to charge their armored OPs forward, you've also got the HQ version of the Panzer one to do that with. Okay, and then we have the 88 unit of 4, 3, 2, or 1. As you can imagine, they do cost a fair bit, but for reasons being, they are anti-tank 14, but do have a 4+ save. Now, there's another version of the 88 which we'll have a look at if you want to save a point or two. Okay, so then this is the last of the support. So we have our Stukas. Not awful on points, but they only have an anti-tank of 3. Well, that's going to be more than enough, really, in early war with a 2+ bomb. But it's only the bomb versions we have, the dive bomber. We have Luftwaffe 88, so it's basically they come in as a point cheaper per gun than the other ones. But they are aggressive, but they have confident training. They don't have the last stand. It doesn't really matter if they're trained or veteran or not, really. It's the aggressiveness that will hurt them the most, but hopefully they can sit back further enough from direct fire to not be a problem. They also don't have the gun shield rule either, which could be a problem. I don't know. Should be okay. And then lastly, you have the 10-4 light AA platoon, which, when you think about it, if you have a unit of 4 and you had them in ambush against light armor, you've got 12 shots there when you pop your ambush, which, you're only 5+ firepower, but anti-tank 5, again, isn't awful in early war. And that is the Germans. Remember, these guys are the last ones to come out. I would definitely say the starter set is worth getting. Remember, it's on Firestorm Games. Make sure, you accept cookies. And I would say the Dunkirk 2-player set is good to add on to that, and that should give you quite a good start to go on. I'm getting both the Dunkirk and Maginot set, and hopefully have enough early war Germans to play around with limited proxies. And finally, version 4, we see the French. Not command cards or anything like that. We have the French, which I'm really looking forward to. Just to sum them up briefly here, they are all aggressive. Obviously, I don't know if the command cards will change any of that. They do have some very good stuff. Tactically, they don't want to use them. But yeah, aggressive will hurt the most. But yeah, they've got quite a lot of good stuff and some good special rules as well, which we'll have a look at. Okay, so let's have a look at the structure on their formation. Don't worry, there are more formations. There's a second page. So we have a Somua S-35 Combat Squadron, a Renault Sharby 1 Tank Company, and there are two other formations. We have a Chasseur Company and a Motor Fusiliers Squadron, and plenty of support. You can see you can have 3 options of 75mm artillery, and in one of these options you can have 105 howitzers or artillery, an OP, plenty of anti-tank options, and then also some reconnaissance, and we have some ancient Renault FT tank platoons and some AA options, and like the other nations, there are wildcards as well. The other 2 formations, we have a rifle company and then basically an armored car formation, and then we see their special rules. Gigantic, we've seen this one before. Methodical though, so basically tanks with methodical have a worse tactics rating and reduced tactical speed, but tanks with the methodical rating break off in the assault step at tactical speed equivalent to their terrain dash speed instead. So basically you're not going to get like destroyed in assaults. Secondary weapon, you'll see this because of the Sharby 1, but artillery wise they have the quick fire rule. So an artillery unit equipped with 75mm field guns firing a bombardment only re-rolls successful hits if it has 1 weapon, and rerolls and successful hits when firing with 4 weapons. So basically kind of like the fire burst rule. So I'm inclined to kind of split my 75mm battery into 2 units of 2, so get extra smoke and 2 templates which are effectively not hampered by 2 guns unless they get hit, and then they'll be last standing. Okay, so the first of the French tanks, the Saumur. Obviously you can see you can have Saumurs in all of your slots as well as anti-tank guns, and pretty much every other tank the French have apart from the Sharpie 1, which we'll go have. So basically your options are a Saumur, a Hotchkiss H35, a Hotchkiss H39, or a Hotchkiss H39 late. Also, apologies if I get the rules wrong. So as you can see here, French tanks are aggressive, they are confident and trained, but their tactics rating is a 5+. So you can try blitz moves, Richard would, but it's probably not going to happen. So the HQ is one Saumur or a Hotchkiss long. The Saumur themselves are a unit of 543. Now the tank itself is actually pretty good. Front 4, side 3, top 1. So I think that is pretty much rivals the best the Germans have. And it has a 47mm gun, which is basically anti-tank 7, 4+ firepower, and it has machine guns as well. So you think about the German armor, the best stuff having about front armor 3, so that is quite capable. And then also you got your light stuff being front 1 and 2, you run into trouble there. And then the Hotchkiss, you have different options. So you can have Hotchkiss 35 and then a 35 long, so 4 and 1, and then 3 37s and 1 long, or 2 37s and 1 long. Again, comparatively similar in armor to the German stuff, but again is a lot lighter. It is only a 37mm and it's anti-tank 4, 4+ firepower and overworked, and so is the long version, which is slightly bigger with anti-tank 5. Okay, so now we have the 2 other variants of the Hotchkiss, so the Hotchkiss 39 and the Hotchkiss 39 late. So the Hotchkiss 39, you do get a little bit more speed, and that's about it. The gun composition is the same, and yeah, so you pay a little bit more points. And then obviously the Hotchkiss 39 late combat platoon is the only way you can get all the long versions, so you can ditch that anti-tank 4 and concentrate on that super anti-tank 5, which, you know, again, against your Panzer 1s and your Panzer 38s is fairly decent, but against the front armor 3 stuff it is going to struggle a bit. Okay, so this is probably going to be more of a fan favourite, the Renault Sharpie 1. So HQ has to be a Sharpie 1, although I don't think that is quite true. And then again, it's like the Saumur, where you get loads of different options. Apart from you can't take the Saumur in your formation, unfortunately, which I didn't catch earlier when I was playing around with lists, but it is what it is. The Sharpie 1 is decent enough on its own, I guess. Okay, so the Sharpie 1 is a bit of a beast. The HQ, you can have 1 or a Renault R35, and then the Sharpies come in units of 3 or 2. Now they are front armor 6. Now you got to remember, the better German tanks were anti-tank 7. So you got a bit of a problem there. You might be able to hit them, but you're not going to be able to do much. And their side is 4. Now, most likely you will be getting them in the side, and there's not a whole lot of Sharpie 1s, and they're not going to be blitzing to get there. And being tactical 6, they're not going to be moving around rapidly either. But their turret is anti-tank 7, however, with a 4+ firepower, it is overworked. And if that isn't shooting you, and you're in the front, you also have a 75mm firing at you. Now it's only anti-tank 6, hasn't got a moving rate of fire, but it has a 3+ firepower, forward firing, and a secondary weapon, so basically +1 harder to hit if you're firing the 47 as well. Now, Gotta remember, these look pretty impressive, but the Germans do get 88s, and these things are going to take some time to get to them. Tactical 6, so but quite decent. And also we got the Renault R35, so we see these quite a lot in Romanian lists. Only anti-tank 4, however, and being overworked and as slow as the Sharby ones. Okay, so we have the first of the French infantry. We have a chasseurs company, so we have a HQ, and then we have three infantry platoon options, 2 of them dedicated and 1 of them can be a motor fusilier platoon. There is not much difference between a chasseurs and a motor fusilier, but we will have a look at the difference. We have our light mortars and 2 anti-tank platoon options. And I also like to put in as well, the HQ can be 2 rifle teams or 2 rifle teams and a 60mm mortar. And the main thing is a 60mm mortar can fire a template, which is quite handy. I know you have to reroll your hits, but you'd be surprised how that little extra template can be useful. And all the French infantry company HQs have this option as well. And it's only a point more. Okay, so we have the chasseur platoon, so a unit of 7 with 1 rifle grenade team, or a unit of 5 with 1 rifle grenade team. No extra options here, so they are a little light on infantry anti-tank weapons, but an anti-tank 2 in the grenade team with 4+ firepower it's basically your 2-inch mortar, the same as the one the German has. And then we have some of the rain carriers command cards. But as you can see, they are aggressive, but they are confident trained. But command card wise, no doubt if there's any colonial troops, it'll probably be fairly similar, but the assault rating and counter-attack will probably be different. But I don't know, it's just speculation. And then we have the 25mm anti-tank platoon, 4, 3, or 2, so a good amount there. Anti-tank 6 as well, so not awful, but it is a 5+ firepower. But you know, I think what the guys are saying is going to be Bale central. So I think having infantry is going to be quite vital in early war to follow up on those Bales. Okay, and then we have the Motor Fusiliers Squadron, so a lot more options. We have 3 platoons that have to be Motor Fusiliers, a machine gun platoon, and then we have 2 recce options, an AMR 35 and a Hotchkiss H39. 2 lots of anti-tanks. We can either have the anti-tank guns or the Lafley SP, and then we have our mortars as well. Okay, so the Motor Fusilier platoon, I'll give you a second and try and see what the difference was between the other infantry. So again, you have the composition of 7 and 1 grenade and 5 and 1 grenade, but the only difference, other than obviously the much more variety in support that you can have in your formation, you can have a HMG in your platoon as well. So just beefs up your shots. Okay, so this is the first we're looking at the French mortars. This is your standard 81mm mortar, unit of 4, unit of 2. Trained, so it could be a bit of a problem, but overall quite good. And then you have the Lafley SP anti-tank platoon, so it's basically the same anti-tank as the anti-tank guns, unit of 4, 3, or 2. They are, bear with me, the same points as the anti-tank gun version. I think the main thing being they are unarmored and have a 4+ save. So that's the problem, but you can move them, and they do have a moving rate of fire, and they're forward firing as well. So I don't know. I suppose if you want to make a more of an offensive infantry force and you want your anti-tank guns coming up with you, I suppose these are the guys for you. And we have our 2 recce units, so the AMR-35, so it's kind of basically like a tankette type thing. So you can have a unit of 3 with MGs and 2 13.2mm, or a unit of 2 MGs and 1 13.2. So anti-tank 4, so not great, but they do have spearhead and scout, so quite interesting. But they are green and have a bad counterattack and last stand, which is the same as the Hotchkiss recon platoon. So you can have 2 Hotchkisses and Hotchkiss long, or 3 of the regular Hotchkisses. And again, these guys also have Spearhead and Scout as well. So yeah, quite interesting option to have in your formation, and you can have these as formation support as well. And then we have our armored car squadron. I think these guys are actually quite good. I'm not actually going to show you the platoon because the platoon stats exactly same as the HQ. Now the HQ is only 1, and you can then the platoon is either a unit of 4, 3, or 2. Armor-wise, not awful for an armored car. They do have a good anti-tank gun on them, so it's basically as good as most of the French tanks. Of course, they got Scout. They do have Spearhead, but they are green, confident, and of course being Scouts are a bad last stand. But I think every list I've knocked up for the French has pretty much had a unit of some size in it, just really for the Spearhead to help out, because the French tanks are so slow. Okay, and then we have the last of the French formations, a rifle company, so it's HQ, and this one you do have 4 options for platoons, rifle platoons, an MG, a mortar, an anti-tank gun platoon, and an anti-aircraft platoon as well. So again, the only real difference between the other stuff is they actually are slightly smaller platoon. There's only 6 rifle MG teams and a grenade, or 5, but you can give them a machine gun. But it's quite interesting that they are that little bit smaller. Okay, so then into support with something not so good and something good. So we have some ancient Renault FT tank platoons harking back to the First World War. So you can have a unit of 3 with cannons and 2 with machine guns, or 2 cannons and 1 machine gun. Armor-wise, just basically a box, 111, not a particularly strong box. They are confident and trained, methodical, anti-tank 4-gun, overworked, and they're quite slow, although their cross-check isn't awful. But probably the one really interesting thing that the French have is the Lafley TCC tank hunter platoon. You can have a unit of 5, 4, or 3. They are anti-tank 9. That's massive. With 4+ firepower, of course, no HE. Now, I do fancy these guys for an ambush. Now, 10 shots, anti-tank 9. You know, I could do some damage with that, as long as you actually hit your stuff, because you already got a 4-up save, so even Panzer 1s are going to absolutely mow you down. So, option no. I definitely think every defense list I've done for the French, these guys have been in there, until I actually get them, and I keep seeing them getting murdered. That's probably when I'll change my mind. Okay, so now we're on to anti-tank gun support. Now, unfortunately, you only get units of 2. Sorry, folks. The 47mm, pretty good. Anti-tank 9, 4+ firepower, 3+ save. For a point more, you can have the 75mm anti-tank gun. So that's anti-tank 9, but with a 3+ firepower. So, you know, it's up to you what you want, really. And then in artillery terms, so we have our 75mm artillery battery, which doubles up as a pretty good anti-tank gun, but it is a large gun though, so you can't be doing your ambushes. You can have a unit of 4 or a unit of 2, or you can split your unit 4 into 2 2s, because these guys have the quick fire rule. They do have a 4+ save, which tends to be the case for large artillery. They are veteran and, generally speaking, are just a fairly decent artillery. They do have a 4+ firepower on the barrage, so will let you down slightly, but they do provide smoke. And anti-tank gun wise, 2 shots with 1 moving, anti-tank 9, 3+ firepower. It's pretty potent. And then you have 2 different 105s. You have 105mm howitzers or artillery. The artillery battery is 2 points more. Stat wise, the only really difference is there's some stuff with the movement, but it's the artillery is what you're looking at. Now, the howitzer is the only one that can fire smoke, which is probably the biggest thing. They're both slow firing, but the artillery battery is anti-tank 9, 2 plus firepower, but I think personally I'd rather the smoke and also save myself 2 points as well. And in terms of observation, the French just have an infantry observer, but hooray, we get infantry observers again. Okay, so then we have the anti-aircraft support. Remember, the 25mm anti-aircraft platoon can be taken in the rifle company. So you can have unit 4302. Now, again, gotta remember, ambush option here. Like the Germans, there's anti-tank 6, 3 shots each, 4 of them. I know they only have a 5 plus firepower, but I don't know. Fancy it. But the biggest thing is they have a 4 plus save. Same again, you could think for the 75mm one, but they are gigantic. They only have a 5 up save, so probably won't get these guys. But they are anti-tank 9 though, so it's up to you. I personally will probably give them a skip. And that is it for the French. Starter set looks pretty good. I think you'll get about 80 points out of that starter set, and if you combined it with the Maginot line set as well, I think you'll get like pretty much good head start on the French, which of course are the second release for early war. I like them. I think it'd be quite interesting. Looking forward to trying out their tank squadrons. But yes, they are aggressive, they are methodical, and they have some interesting tank designs. And unfortunately, their infantry being aggressive could be a problem, but I don't know what command cards we have in store for us, so we shall see. And then lastly, but firstly, in terms of release, we have the British, the BEF, back every Friday. So not loads of options, 5 formations outside of command cards. Probably would only ever consider running 2. One of them I would if it wasn't for the cost, and the other 2 are just, I just don't think are practical enough. But interesting options. The infantry are careful, and that's it. Some support options are careful as well, but all the armor is aggressive, which we'll have a look at. And we have some new special rules, which some of you may have seen when the unit cards were teased on Facebook. So let's have a look. Okay, so the British Expeditionary Force. We have 4 armoured formations. We have a Matilda 1 tank company, a Matilda 2 tank company, and a 13 armoured squadron, a divisional cavalry squadron, and we have our rifle company. Now we can have 3 18-25 pounders in support, or the horse artillery variant. OPYs can be infantry or a Bren gun carrier. We can have 2 units of 2 pounders in anti-tank support, and then in our recce option we have dingoes, Morris CS9s, or a motorcycle platoon. They're not modelled on motorcycles though, so don't get your hopes up. But that's it, and we'll have a look at some of the special rules. Okay, so quite a few of the stuff we've seen before: bulldog, deadly, secondary weapon, but horse artillery, of course, it only applies to the horse artillery 18-25 pounders. So basically, they can perform a blitz move order to mount and dismount from their transport team, but they cannot fire an artillery bombardment if they do that. But it means they can still fire. Cruiser tanks basically have the stabilizers rule, sort of. So basically, when you see the stats, their rate of fire is 2-2, but if they move is +1 harder to hit, which the biggest problem is the things they will be shooting at are all careful. So if there is no concealment, you're hitting them on 5s, but hopefully you get them in the flank, or you're just getting into short range with that. So you'll see their guns are actually quite good. Now the Cruiser A9 has smoke bombardment only and smoke only rule. So basically, it only fires smoke with the gun. I think it does have machine guns, but it only fires smoke. But it can fire 2 smoke bombardments. But for me, I just don't think that's enough. So I think I gave that a miss on my pre-orders, and we'll see now when I come to regret that. But interesting. I think As always with British mid-war and late war, I just struggle to find a round number for reserves. But I think this stuff is quite cool. But we'll have a look at them now, starting off with the A13 Armoured Squadron. So the HQ is an A13, but different combinations. And then the first dedicated option is an A13 or an A13 Mark II. Then you have the light Mark 6, and then the second option is the same again, A13 or A13 Mark II, and then again the light option. HQ have quite different options. 2 A13s, 2 A9s, 1 A13, 1 A9, 2 A13s, and 2 A9s, and you can, for 1 point, increase the A13 to an A13 Mark II. Now, what is the difference? We will see in the next slide, but as you can see here, the A13 has the cruiser rule. It is anti-tank 7 though, with a 4+ firepower, has no HE, and has the cruiser rule, and quite nippy, as is pretty much tank design. Armor wise though, is lacking. They are aggressive, but they are confident trained. Okay, so the A13 and the A13 Mark II respectively, the Mark II basically costs 2 points more, which is pretty much, I think I'd go for it. The additional front and side armor, especially think about, you're going to be up against anti-tank 6 quite a lot with the Germans, is going to be quite a bit of a difference. So if you think at long range, your front armor is going to be 3. So it's probably going to be fairly even, because your gun's going to be 1 better than them, and your armor is going to be 1 worse than them with the Mark II. But yeah, the main thing is they'll be hitting you a lot easier as well, so maybe having a little bit of survivability could help. Okay, and then the light tanks, now they don't have the cruiser rule, but you have 2 options. So you can have the Mark 6B or the Mark 6C. I'll probably most likely go for the C, because it is 1 better anti-tank, and it is only 1 point more, but that's probably what I'll go after. Now you have to have one of these units in your formation to take it, and I think if you buy the Dunkirk set and the British starter set, it's enough to field a full formation of these guys, hence why I've got it. And also you have an infantry company to back yourselves up as well. But yeah, an interesting tank really. Overall, the formation altogether doesn't come in at a lot of points. Unfortunately, you do have to put a lot of the formation in reserve, but you do have enough to have a second formation of something, maybe another cruiser company. I'm potentially thinking that, but it does mean buying more. But yeah, interesting tanks, and the cruisers have an interesting paint scheme, which I'm going to try and replicate. And then we have a divisional cavalry squadron, which is, quite similar to the ones we saw in the Armoured Fist with the Australian and New Zealand ones. So you've got your HQ, and then you have your 2 troops of Mark 6 light tanks, and also 2 compulsory scout carriers as well, and then an option for 2 more. But you have to take the Mark 6B, you can't take the C with these ones, which we'll show you now. Okay, so the HQ can either be 2 Mark 6s or 2 Mark 6s and scout carriers. Basically, the scout carrier and the 5-inch gun are the same anti-tank and same firepower, so I suppose it's a lot of anti-tank 4 and not much else, and armor-wise pretty similar. But yeah, interesting formation, bit of a swarm really. Now the scout carriers though do provide you with scout and spearhead as well. Do cost quite a little bit points less than the Mark 6 tank, but you need to get a lot really in terms of buying stuff to field this formation. So obviously you need to buy 2 packs of scouts, and then 2 packs of light tanks really to do this, because you'll need 6, 7, 8 for the light tanks to do it, and then you could probably then, if you wanted to, buy another pack of scout carriers, either to put into the HQ or run another support option, but I don't know. interesting. Right, now the armour increases a fair bit with the Matilda 1s. Now, the HQ is, of course, Matilda 1, and then 2 compulsory units of Matilda 1s, and any other 2 can be Matilda 1s or Matilda 2s. Matilda 1, armour-wise, is great, but that's kind of where it stops, really. It's pretty slow. It can either have the HQ can either well the HQ can is it is 1 Matilda 1 and a light Mark 6B. It's quite interesting. And the troops themselves is 2 Matilda 1s with machine guns and 1 Matilda with a 5-inch, or 3 Matilda 1s with machine guns. And as I said, basically the best you can have is 1 5-inch in your platoons, which is anti-tank 4, 5+ firepower. So there's not a lot that can really kill them, but they're not going to be really killing anything in return either, and the 5+ firepower is not going to do much either. So Matilda 1s, I think I'll give them a miss. Now Matilda 2s is where we get, a bit more interesting, but you can't really feel the formation really. So if HQ, which is a Matilda 2 or a light Mark 6 or 1 Matilda 2, and then you have 2 compulsory units, which are Matilda 2s or an option to have a Matilda 1, and then the other 2 options are the same. Now the Matilda front armor 7, so it doesn't really matter they're aggressive, because the only really thing bothering them are going to be 88s or direct fire and 10.5cm howitzers, and even then need to be rolling badly. Confident with a good counterattack and trained, and a good gun at 2-inch at tank 7. Now the platoons can be a unit of 2, a unit of 3, or a unit of 2 with 1 Matilda. Now in terms of points, a unit of 2 isn't enough to fit squarely into reserve. You will need to put something else in with them. And a unit of 3 is way over the round number for reserves, for our 100 points that I like to use. So I think I'll probably get 2. Well, I think they'd be quite annoying, and I do really like Matilda 2s, and they should be in all of the British books, well, especially the mid-war books anyway. Okay, so in last British formation in the book, we have the rifle companies. You have the HQ, and then 3 platoons of infantry, 2 of them compulsory, 3-inch mortar sections, which will slightly disappoint people, 2 pounders, 2 units of Vickers, and 3 scout carrier patrol options. So the HQ, again, is your 2 rifle teams, and the rifle platoon itself is our classic British. Careful, confident, 3+ counterattack, trained, 3+ assault. And again, it's either 7 rifle MG teams with the boys and a 2-inch mortar, but the boys anti-tank rifles, and that's actually quite good. And then a unit of 5. And that's it. Kind of pretty much the infantry we've kind of got used to, apart from when we get to late war and the infantry don't really want to be doing anything, but can you blame them after 6 years? So yeah. Okay, so yeah, the 3-inch mortar is only a unit of 2. It's desert rats all over again. Just have to put up with it. It is a template, and it is a smoke template at the end of the day. So it is what it is. And in terms of other templates, we still have the machine gun platoon, which is actually quite a lot of points. It's actually a unit of 4 is double the cost of your 2-inch mortars, but they can fire an artillery template. And being anti-tank 2 means, actually bail some of the German armour from the front, which is quite interesting. But that extra template, especially against other infantry units or even 88s, could potentially be the difference, really. But again, it's kind of standard British, apart from lacking a couple of extra 3-inch mortars. Right, over to support. Now we have the scout carrier patrol again, but these ones are careful, so they do come at an extra point, but they have scout and spearhead, and they're careful. So there you go. And they have the boys anti-tank rifle kind of already added, so that means pretty much they hit as hard as pretty much most of the well, half of the British armour that we have as well. So there we go. Interesting option. Okay, we then have other scout options. We have the Daimler Dingo, is a unit of 3 or 2. Now, Unit of 3 actually does cost more than the universal. No, it's the same. It is the same as the universal carriers, but does not have the boys anti-tank rifle. Now it's basically if you want tracks or wheels, these guys are slightly faster over roads and stuff like that. But yeah, it's up to you. And a motorcycle platoon. They've kind of already lost their motorcycles at this point, but they have the spearhead rule. So it's a unit of 4 MG teams, a boys anti-tank rifle, and a 2-inch mortar. So it's basically a motor platoon. I see what they've done there. It's motor platoon, but they've added a cycle at the end. But an interesting option, and it's the spearhead really that you want, and it does come in at the same points as either 3 Daimlers or 3 of the careful universal carriers. And aren't the British lucky having 4 options for scouts? Now again, same points as all the others. We have 3 Morris CS9s. Probably won't go for these. They are pretty slow, and that 5+ cross might be, or will be a big problem. They do have basically boys anti-tank rifle and machine guns, careful, scout and spearhead, but everything else is just so much faster than them. To be honest, the infantry are faster than them as well. But if some people do have a soft spot for these weird, wacky little things, and yeah, I just won't get them. I just want to save some money. So that is the scout spearhead options for the British. Okay, and then we have our 2-pounders. So you can have it in formation, you can have it in support, or you can have it, of course, in your formations that we've seen. So you can have a unit of 4 or 2. Now, before, obviously, the 2-pounder looking there in other versions of the game doesn't look great, but now it can slice through quite a lot of the German armour. The only issue you will have is they don't move particularly fast, but really you want these for a ambush type thing, which they're pretty much intended for. And they have a 3+ save and careful, so a pretty good arsenal to your list. And remember, I think you can have 2 of them in support, and you can have 1 of them in your formation. So I suppose if you want to do that silly gun line thing, you can have about 3 of them, and you'll still have a lot of points left over. Okay, so then the 18 25-pounders. So the biggest difference between the 25-pounder is 1 less on the anti-tank. They are artillery, they fire smoke though, do have a 4+ save, so pretty good. Now, the regular 18 25-pounders are the same points as all the 25-pounders we have in the British books, unless they're mounted in a tank chassis and they're slightly cheaper. The 25-pounder are confident, but they are veteran. But for 2 points extra, you can have the horse artillery version with their fancy horse artillery rule, which will, I don't know, ever be used. But they are fearless. That's what you're paying your points for. I'll probably always use the regular ones and then bemoan the fact that I keep rolling 3s to unpin them. But yeah, that is it for the British book. And it for the book in general. There are painting guides which are useful. I suppose the first thing you should do is when you get your book is to order your paints that you may require. In terms of the British, I think the Dunkirk set and the British Army set is excellent value and will set you up for quite a decent list, because you'll be able to run a 13 cruiser company and an infantry company. The only thing you probably really desperately want to go along with that is the 18 25-pounders. But again, thank you Battlefront for doing this for us. Looking forward to Italy and the other early war books, and I hope everyone else is interested as well. Remember, please use my links, it will help me, because this is going to be a very expensive year for me. I hope you enjoyed my review, and hopefully we'll see you having some games of early war very soon, and I'll try my best to get those 2-player starter sets painted up ASAP to get them on the table.